In 2026, Christopher Nolan will bring to the big screen a vision of the Odyssey, a tale older than most civilizations, yet still powerful enough to grip the imagination today. But behind the anticipation for Nolan's upcoming film lies a far deeper story, a journey that has shaped Western storytelling for nearly 3,000 years. The Odyssey isn't just a myth, it's a psychological map of human resilience, temptation, and the fight to reclaim what's yours against impossible odds. To understand the story Nolan is adapting, we need to journey back, not just to ancient Greece, but to the smoking ruins of Troy, where one man's path home would become the most famous voyage in history. This is the real journey of Odysseus. The Odyssey begins where another epic ends, the Iliad. After a decade-long siege, the Greeks finally breached the walls of Troy through the cunning of a single man, Odysseus, king of Ithaca. His idea, the Trojan horse, ends the war. But what was supposed to be a quick journey home becomes a 10-year nightmare. Odysseus sails away from Troy with 12 ships, his men ready to see their families after years of bloodshed. But the gods, never far from mortal affairs, have other plans. Odysseus has angered Poseidon, god of the sea, by blinding his son, the Cyclops Polyphemus, but that comes later in our tale. For now, the sea is calm, and the king of Ithaca believes he will be home in weeks. Odysseus' first stop is the city of the Cicones at Ismarus. At first, the Greeks win easily, sacking the city and taking supplies. But instead of leaving quickly, Odysseus' men linger, drunk on victory. The Cicones regroup, launch a counterattack, and drive them back to their ships. Many Greeks die before they can push off into the sea. This early episode sets the tone for the entire Odyssey, moments of safety or success quickly turning into disaster through pride, greed, or carelessness. Blown off course, Odysseus and his men arrive at the land of the Lotus Eaters. These peaceful people offer no harm, only a flower that erases all desire to return home. Some of Odysseus' men taste the lotus and fall into a blissful stupor, forgetting Ithaca entirely. Odysseus sees the danger at once. He forces the lotus-dazed men back to the ships and orders an immediate departure. The encounter is short, but it reveals another threat of the journey, not just monsters or storms, but the seductive pull of forgetting one's purpose. Next comes one of the most famous episodes, the land of the Cyclopes. Odysseus and his crew find themselves trapped in the cave of Polyphemus, a giant one-eyed son of Poseidon. The Cyclops eats several of Odysseus' men alive, ignoring all rules of hospitality sacred to the Greeks. Using his wits, Odysseus gets the Cyclops drunk on strong wine, tells him his name is Nobody, and blinds him with a heated steak while he sleeps. The Greeks escape by clinging to the undersides of Polyphemus' sheep as they leave the cave. But Odysseus' pride betrays him. As they sail away, he shouts his real name to the Cyclops, who then calls upon Poseidon to curse him. This moment seals Odysseus' fate, ensuring that the god of the sea will do everything to keep him from Ithaca. After escaping the Cyclops, Odysseus reaches the floating island of Aeolia, home to Aeolus, the god of the winds. Aeolus welcomes him as a guest and, impressed by his story, gives Odysseus a leather bag tied with silver. Inside it, all the winds of the world, except the gentle west wind needed to carry him home. For 9 days, Odysseus steers toward Ithaca, the shoreline finally in sight. But just before arrival, exhaustion overcomes him and he falls asleep. His men, curious and suspicious that the bag contains gold, open it. The unleashed winds roar into a storm, hurling them all the way back to Aeolia. This time, Aeolus refuses help, believing Odysseus is cursed by the gods and cannot be saved. The next land brings horror. The Laestrygonians are not men but giants who feast on human flesh. As soon as Odysseus' ships enter their harbor, the giants hurl boulders from the cliffs, smashing hulls and killing sailors. Only Odysseus' own ship, which had stayed outside the narrow entrance, escapes. The rest of his fleet is gone, and hundreds of his men are dead. Now, with only one ship left, his journey becomes even more desperate. Odysseus next lands on the island of Io, ruled by Circe, a goddess and sorceress. She welcomes his men into her hall, then transforms them into pigs with a potion. Forewarned by the god Hermes, Odysseus confronts her without fear, armed with a magical herb called moly that makes him immune to her magic. Impressed, Circe restores his men to human form and invites them to stay. They remain for an entire year, feasting and resting, until Odysseus' crew reminds him of his duty to return home. Circe finally agrees to let them go, but not before giving crucial advice. To reach Ithaca, he must first travel to the underworld and consult the prophet Tiresias. Odysseus sails to the edge of the world, where the ocean meets the land of the dead. There he performs a ritual to summon Tiresias. The prophet warns him, "Do not harm the sacred cattle of the sun god Helios. Expect hardship even upon reaching Ithaca." And most ominously, he will face a final journey inland to appease Poseidon. In the shadows, Odysseus also meets the ghost of his mother, who died of grief during his absence, and fallen comrades from Troy. The scene is heavy with loss, showing the human cost of his long absence. Back on the sea, Odysseus faces the Sirens, creatures whose song lures sailors to their deaths. Following Circe's instructions, he plugs his men's ears with beeswax. But curious to hear their song, he has himself tied to the mast, ordering his crew to ignore his pleas. The Sirens sing of hidden truths and promised glories, but bound and helpless, Odysseus survives. From the Sirens' waters, Odysseus sails toward a strait guarded by two horrors. On one side, Scylla, a six-headed sea monster who snatches sailors from decks. On the other, Charybdis, a monstrous whirlpool that swallows ships whole. Circe had warned him, if he must choose, sail closer to Scylla. She will take 6 men, but Charybdis will take them all. The passage is chaos. Scylla's heads dart from her cave, seizing screaming men. Odysseus, heartbreaking, cannot stop to help, steering hard to escape Charybdis' pull. 6 lives are lost, but the ship sails on. After weeks at sea, the crew lands on Thrinacia, the island of Helios, the sun god. Tiresias and Circe had both warned, "Do not touch the sacred cattle." Odysseus orders the men to avoid them, but storms trap them on the island for a month. Supplies run out. While Odysseus sleeps, the starving crew slaughters the cattle, reasoning that it's better to risk divine anger than starve. Helios demands vengeance. Zeus answers, sending a lightning bolt that shatters the ship. All the crew are killed, their bodies swallowed by the sea. Only Odysseus survives, clinging to wreckage. The sea washes Odysseus onto Ogygia, island of the nymph Calypso. She saves his life and offers him immortality if he will stay as her husband. For 7 years, Odysseus lives with her, not in chains, but bound by her love and his lack of a ship. But his heart never leaves Ithaca. The gods finally take pity. Hermes orders Calypso to release him. She does, reluctantly, and helps him build a raft. After another shipwreck, this time from Poseidon's storm, Odysseus washes ashore on the island of the Phaeacians. Found by Princess Nausicaa, he is taken to the royal palace. There he recounts his entire journey, from Troy to that very moment. The Phaeacians, moved by his suffering, load his ship with gifts and finally carry him home. After 20 years, Odysseus' feet touch Ithaca's soil. But Athena warns him. The palace is overrun by suitors courting his wife, Penelope, devouring his wealth, and plotting to kill his son, Telemachus. Disguised as a beggar, Odysseus enters the palace. Only his old dog, Argos, recognizes him, wagging his tail one last time before dying. Penelope, still faithful, has delayed the suitors by promising to marry the man who can string Odysseus' great bow and shoot an arrow through 12 axe heads. None succeed, until the beggar tries. With ease, Odysseus strings the bow, fires the arrow, and reveals his identity. In a sudden fury, Odysseus and Telemachus slaughter the suitors. Justice is swift and absolute. At last, husband and wife are reunited. Peace is restored, and Odysseus reclaims his throne, a king who has walked the edge of death, endured gods and monsters, and returned not only to rule, but to be remembered in legend.